aside the fact that the person who has made this diagnosis is not a physician in the first place, not a neurologist in the second place, and not an epileptologist in the third place. So I'd definitely ignore such an accusation or such a diagnosis if I was a regular layman, because it's not coming from a professional. It's coming from someone who is using Google. Even if he used PubMed, it doesn't make him a physician. You need to be a neurologist, and in many cases, you really need to be an epileptologist in order to make up such a.
All right. So Farid says that, Gondal is not qualified. Gondal is this. Gondal is that. Don't listen to him. He's this, right? A big ad hominem attack. This was the premise they set up. And you will see this continuing theme that they just kind of keep thinking that it's me who's making these things up. But no. As we go into our next section, I just want to remember what he said. And let's go to the next slide.
And he's not making the ad hominems, but he's making the genetic fallacy. He's saying, don't take it from these people. He's saying, but we know that it doesn't matter who makes the argument. Anyone can make an argument. Whether the argument is true or false is not based on who is saying it. So, but anyways, yeah, let's continue.
Perfect. So as he said that, Gondal's not an expert, let's see if any experts actually diagnose Muhammad. So let's go to the first one here. We have Dr. Matthew Woods. In 1913, he wrote this book, In Spite of Epilepsy. You can buy it. You can access it on archive.org. And he claimed, it says, being a review of the lives of 3 great epileptics. And those 3, he included Julius Caesar, Muhammad, and Lord Byron. Now, who is Dr. Matthew Woods? Member of the American Medical Association, the Philadelphia Psychiatric Society, and the National Association for the Study of Epilepsy and the Care and Treatment of Epileptics. Now, on the left-hand side, you can see that he has published 4 other books on epilepsy. So again, he is very much an expert. We will actually go through his whole chapter on Muhammad, which later on shows up. But this is one of the experts that diagnosed Muhammad or claimed that Muhammad is temporal epileptics. He has way more experience than Farid's cousin. Let's go again to the next one. Now we have Dr. DEDE KORKUT. Funnily enough, I have his book right here. I've read it. It's pretty cool. It's actually got a lot of content that we're going to feature in this documentary. He is although Christian, but still a phenomenal work. Let's read out what it says about it. Dr. DEDE KORKUT, bachelor's and then MD, is the descendant of an old and distinguished medical family dating back over a century. Dr. KORKUT earned a bachelor's degree with honors with majors in religion and chemistry. He then went to medical school and received his MD, after which he completed 5 years of residency training in psychiatry and neurology at one of America's top 5 medical centers. He was later certified as a specialist by the American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology. As a neuropsychiatrist, he has a special interest in the disease syndrome of complex partial seizures, since this is the bridging connection between this discipline of psychiatry and neurology. He's a member of the Turkish American Neuropsychiatric Association. Here's another doctor who's a neurologist who wrote a full book. Now let's go to another one. Who's next? Then this is Dr. ABBAS, who we have lots of video interviews from. He wrote the book, The Sword and Seizure. I have the book in PDF form. It was pretty hard to find it. I will be releasing that at the end of this whole series when it is concluded. In 1970, I was accepted at the National University of Iran, where I studied psychology. I finished my undergraduate degree in 1975, was accepted into London School of Economics and Political Science, went to California to study psychology, eventually received my PhD and passed the state boards in psychology. I am also an assistant professor of clinical psychology at the Northeastern Ohio Universities of Medicine. Most of my daily work is diagnostic workup of patients with neurological disorders. So he's a specialist who specializes in diagnostic work, right? So this is the best person you could find for this job or writing this book. In 1995, I took a detour from practicing clinical psychology to clinical neuropsychology. This detour required additional training, including a 2-year postdoc study at New York University branch of Fielding Institute. While researching the life of Muhammad, I studied seizure disorders and their impact on human religiosity. Once the project was reasonably completed, I presented the topic to the Department of Neuropsychology of the New York University. The response was positive and humbling. Up to that point, my intention had been only to print a research article in a psychology journal. However, my colleagues encouraged me to expand the writings and publish them in a book form. This is taken from his own description, and it's also in his book in the first chapter. So as you see, we have three distinct, very, very experienced clinical neurologists that are claiming this, and they're all separated from each other. They've independently arrived at this conclusion. Dr. DEDE KORKUT has about 40 years of experience. Dr. ABBAS at this point has about 40 years of clinical practicing experience. And then Dr. Matthew Woods. So these guys have a combined experience of more than 100 years. So, and then we have another expert on the next slide, which is a very close friend and mentor of both of ours, Samir and mine.
Yeah, before we get to that, I just want to ask a quick question. I noticed a lot of them, I mean, both of these guys have Muslim names.
Yeah, so they're actually ex-Muslims. Dr. DEDE KORKUT is an ex-Muslim who left and joined Christianity, and Dr. ABBAS is, I believe, an atheist. Dr. ABBAS, actually, he writes a lot of blogs, and he writes a lot about politics, actually. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. And then we have our very own friend, Dr. Ali AMJAD RIZVI. I read his book, The Atheist Muslim. He will be joining us in episode 2 when we talk about the details, but let's read about what his credentials are. So Ali RIZVI finished medical school at Aga Khan University in Karachi. That is one of the top medical schools in Pakistan and one of the top ones in Asia in that region. Then immigrated to Canada as a permanent resident in 1999. He obtained his Master's of Science degree from McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada in 2003, and then studied pathology at the University of Buffalo in upstate New York from 2004 to 2008. RIZVI is the author of The Atheist Muslim, A Journey from Religion to Reason, published by St. Martin's Press in 2016. It is a combination of personal biography and analysis of arguments in favor of rejecting Islam, Reformation, secularism, and finally, enlightenment. Ali will guide us through this unique journey into the mind of the Prophet Muhammad. And now, there's another surprise guest that will keep making appearances in some videos, is Dr. Ali Sina. He's actually also a psychologist. I think he has a doctorate in psychology. And he wrote a book about the psychology of Muhammad. And he will show up in some interviews as well. So as we see, we have a panel of experts that have dedicated a lot of time at this topic they're going to go through this with. And I just want to say that at this point, if Farid's cousin says that, oh, don't listen to Gondal, Gondal is a nobody, Gondal is making this up, I think they're just completely unaware of the depth of the argument, the content of the argument, and the video they made was a reactionary video, and it could have been way better. I mean, but anyways, the point that, Gondal doesn't know anything and he's making this all up, and don't listen to him, can be thrown out of the water because we have actual experts with way more experience than Farid and his cousin claiming that Muhammad could have definitely suffered from epilepsy.